Begin the current Daf Mesechtes Bava Kama Daf Nun Hey. We begin on the bottom of Ndal and Beis, second line up in the bottom of the Yamid, where the Gemara continues in the related Agadic teaching, because we were discussing the Dibris Rishainis and the Dibris Achrainis, which we were talking about the halacha of Shabbos, Klal Prat. So once we mentioned the Luchas Rishainis Ashnias, the Gemara makes a contrast between the two of them. Sure, it corresponds to Bakazach and the Chesed, turn to the Daf Chaim, turn to this Dash, B'schutz B'chim and Ezon Etzra, throughout the entire world. So we're discussing today's daf are bedibris rishainis like nemavem toiv, bedibris achrainis nemavem toiv. It doesn't say toiv good by the first luchas; it says only by the second. The Gemara explains the reason for that. Hamar biyash neim minim shebiyam loika. Someone mates crosses species that are aquatic creatures, it gets lashes, just like when you have regular animals. And hamanik be'izav b'shivut the Gemara wants to know what happens if you mate. Or if you lead, actually, with two different types of creatures. One is a land animal, one's a water animal. Would that be a problem about klayim, about working with both of them together? Which relates to another question regarding chiba chita b'seir b'yadoi. Let's say someone takes wheat and barley in his hand. He like plants them together, but one's right over the property line, right over the green line, right over whichever line it is. But it's right after that line, and you plant together. Would that also be a violation about planting klayim? Then we begin the sixth parak hakoinis soin ladir. If someone gathers sheep into the pen, the nol b'faner kuro, and he locks the door appropriately, and b'yatz v'zik and animal goes on damages, then you can be pater. But loy nol b'faner kuro, says the Mishnah, if you didn't lock the door appropriately, b'yatz v'zik and animal goes on damages, the chayiv is going to be liable for the damage that it does. Now, the importance of dela shichay lamed beruch mitzui zeh kuro, what's considered appropriately? It's a door that can withstand the common wind. Shein chay lamed beruch mitzui, but can't withstand the common wind. That's considered as inappropriate. It's not a sufficient type of a shmira of the animal. So we get the current daf Nundal Mabez, the second line up at the bottom of the Amid. The Gemara brings Shol Reb Chanina ben Ogel. Chanina ben Ogel asked Reb Chia Barabba the following question: why is the bedibris rishainis with the first aseres adibris in parish and sefer shemais? Lo nemem taif doesn't say the word good. Bedibris achrainis, but by the in Farsha Beschana, when it talks the second time it mentions the luchis, that says the dibris, it's a continuing type of Nun Hey Alf. Nembevem Taiv, it says good. Where is that? It says Rashi Bekibud Abaim. It says Laman Yitav Loch, that he should do good for you. So why is it that there it says good and not by the first one? So Maloi. So on that Rabbi Abba responded to it. He says, Chata Shoyleni Lama Lembem Taiv. Until you're going to ask me, why does it say good? Sha'alni im nem bem taiv. Im love, ask me if it even says good or not. Meaning, you made a premise, you're making an assumption, you're saying that I know this idea, you just ask me why. He says, Sheni de im nem bem taiv im love. He says, I don't even know if it even says good or not. Obviously, he knows the pasuk in Chumash. He's basically saying that Klach Eitzer Reb Tantchem Ber Chamni Loi. Go to Reb Tantchem, Shayirogel Eitzer B'Shuban Levi. He was accustomed to be by B'Shuban Levi. That he was well versed in Agadic teachings. I don't know these drushes on Pshetlach in the Chumash Kashas. Ask me a Lam de I'll tell you, but I don't know if it even says Taiv, let alone ask me why there's a difference. So I was like, so he went to Reb Tancha Bar Chaneloi. Amalei, so he actually said, Mimenu from Yeshua Levi, Lo Shemati, I didn't hear actually this pshat, why it says Taiv only by the Luchas Achrainis. But he says, Shmuel bar Nachum. Shmuel bar Nachum, who is Achi Imoy, he was the uncle, the mother's brother, Shal Rav Acha b'Reb Chanina. Some say he was actually Avi Imoy, Shal Rav Acha b'Reb Chanina. He was the grandfather. He was the mother. He was the mother's father of Rav Achi b'Reb Chanina. And he says, since the first luchas was ultimately going to break, Moshe Rabbeinu was going to smash the luchais. So since he was going to smash the luchais, so therefore it doesn't say toiv in the luchais. So now he asked, who cares that it was ultimately going to break? Why is that a reason? Why not to say the word toiv by the first luchais? So Rav Ashi says, Chas v'shalom, heaven v'seik, paska toiv Yisrael. It's almost like that the good is going to stop from the Jewish people because it says toiv, and you're breaking it, so like it might be breaking the good from the Jewish people. And therefore, it didn't say toiv by the luchas Rishainis, only said it by the luchas Achrainis. Now, continue on this theme about toiv. Amr B'Shua says, if someone sees a letter test in his dream, simin yafaloi. it's a good omen, it's a good sign for him. My time, what's the reason? So the Gemara says, if it's because the letter tes is, you make the word toiv out of it, the word tes, if it's good. So Ema, why didn't you say a pasuk in Yeshaya? So v'tatasiya b'metate hashmar, I'm going to sweep it with a broom of destruction. The word tes could also be a word of sweeping, of destruction. So how do you know it means toiv? No, chad tes coming, this is because we're talking about that you only saw one letter tes, not two. Metate tatasiya has two tes. Same as says, but what do you have a pasuk in Eicha that says tumasa b'shuleha? Its tumma is on its hem. You see, it can mean tumma, mean defilement. It says, no, tes beis coming on. We're saying that the guy saw a letter tes and a vase. It says, but Ema, why didn't say a pasuk in Eicha? Taba ba'aret shalaha, that her gates sank into the ground, which obviously also a bad thing, has a tes and a vase. It says the Gemara, you're right. So that's not the pshat. Ella, I'll tell you why. You only saw a tes. But well-known concept. Reb Tzaddik says a lot that the first place where it mentions something in the Torah, that's its source, and this is what the Gemara is saying over here, because the pasuk opens up. The first time it ever says a test in the Torah is l'toiva tchila. Was said first for the good. Shemibereishis ad, because from the beginning of the Torah until Bayara Lakim Esa'or, which it says right after that ki toiv. Like Siv test, it doesn't say any test. The first time is toiv. So if you see a test, it's a good omen. It means the word toiv. Now, a related teaching, Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg says, if someone sees a eulogy in his dream, they have compassion on him from heaven and they redeemed him. Which obviously you could see the word chasu and paduah is the word ches and hey are interchangeable. So it's hesped, hasped. You know, people say ha. And that's in the writing, meaning to say you saw the word. You didn't actually see lavaya and people being maspid. You saw the letter, the word hey, samach, pei, dalid. That's a sign that they're being chas on you and redeeming you. Now the Gemara continues, the Mishnah said that we said all these halachas in the Mishnah. We said regarding Tashlumi Kefal, Shabbos Avei, the Prike, Chasim, Meklayim, Shabbos, all these halachas, we said that it's not just for Shor, and not just Chamar, and not just all behemoths, even Chaya and Oif, etc., all have the applications. So Rabbi Shloimy, she says, Kan, over here, which is in our Mishnah, which one of the halachas was Klayim, that the prohibition of mixed breeds that applies by birds, is where Shana Rebbe taught us that a tarnagal, a chicken, a tavas, a peacock, ufasyeni, which is a type of a pheasant, of a slav, which is called firditz, klaim zebezeh, that they're prohibited mixture one with the other, because we're teaching you in our Mishnah, all birds are klaim one with the other, one species with one that's not the same species. Obviously, that's what our Mishnah said. Rav Chaviva says no. What Rosh Lakish was teaching us is Mishum Derova Bahadei Adadi. These types, the chickens, the peacock, the pheasant, they grow up together. Now, what would you say Minchad, it's one species? Kamash Malan, that's Rosh Lakish saying that no, that since it's a different species, is what Rabbi is teaching us, that they're going to be prohibited to mate one with the other. Now, Amr Shmuel, he says, Avas va'avas habar. The goose and the wild goose, Klaim zebezeh, are prohibited mixtures one with the others, to mate one with the other. So Maskul Rabbi Baruch Hanani says, my time, what's the reason? If it's because this one has a long beak, and this one has a smaller beak, therefore you're saying they're considered two different species. If that's the case, Gamla Parsa, the Persian camel, Gamla Taya, and the Arabic camel, where that's one of the ways they wanted to show with evolution. You see how they're different, this and that, but the Gemara shows you that they are inherently different. The high alam koye, this one has a thick neck. The high cotton koye, and this one has a thin neck. Are you going to tell me that these are two different species and that it's a prohibition by Klayim? So that's just the fact that one has a longer beak shouldn't be a difference to make it into another species. So Elam Abaye really says, no, you're right. The difference between them is more fundamental. Ze beitza mibachutz. This one has his testicles on the outside. That it's by the wild goose. The testicles are recognizable on the outside. But the domestic one, its eggs are in the inside, and therefore that's going to be a fundamental difference, making them into two different minim. Papa he says regarding the females, the difference. He says this one carries eggs in only one carrying, meaning the wild goose does not carry a second egg until it gives birth to the first one. But the regular goose carries many eggs in one carrying, and therefore that's again a fundamental difference between two of them, making them into a problem about klayim. Another teaching, says, someone mates two species that are aquatic creatures from the sea, loika, he gets lashes for klayim. My time, what's the reason? He says, Asi, we learn that Shava, that it says, Lemineyu miyabasha. The pasuk of the yabasha, of the dry land animal, says, V'yasil kimas chayas arts leminehu. When it talks about the pasukim of the yam, it says, V'kol nefesh chaya harim esas hashal shartz amayim lemineim. So we learn that from yabasha, just like yabasha, there's a prohibition of climb. So too aquatic creatures, you take a dolphin and you take a whale, and you mate them. That's the Isser of Klayim of mixed breeding. Rabbi Chava asked the following question. Manig be'iza b'shibuta. If someone ties a wagon to a goat and to, let's say, a dolphin, a fish, and the dolphin's floating on the water, and the goat is pulling on dry land. What's the halacha? So what's the question? Meaning we know there's halacha that you're not supposed to take two different types of animals and pull the plow to pull the wagon. The question is, do we say even the easily nachas bayam, since the goat doesn't go into the sea, and the fish doesn't go up to dry land, but you haven't done anything. Maybe no hashtami is commanding, but now you're leading your wagon with two different types of creatures, and that would be a violation of the halacha of klayim. So Master Ravina asks on the question, he says, wait a second. If that's the case, what happens if what happens if you take wheat and barley in your hand, and you plant it together, but on the line of Eretz Yisrael? The wheat you put in Eretz Yisrael, and the barley out of Eretz Yisrael. You think you can be chayiv? You're not. So you should say the same thing over here. This is on dry land, this is on water. This is in Eretz Yisrael, this is in Chutz La'aretz. So Amri said, no, how could you compare the two? Also, over there, Eretz Mokum Chiyuva. There, the liability of Klayim is a mitzvah tli ba'aretz. It's only in Eretz Yisrael. So Chutz La'aretz le'mokum chiyuva. Out of Eretz Yisrael is not a place of liability because Klayim does not apply in Chutz La'aretz, because a mitzvah that depends on the land, and any obligation of when it's related to land is only in Eretz Yisrael min haTorah. So therefore, there you're not going to be chayv Klayim. Here, each area is an area of liability of the water and on dry land, and if a person would be pulling a boat in the water with he has a dolphin and he has a whale pulling his boat, he's going to be chayiv because we darshan leminei from Yabasha. My only question, says the Gemara, is regarding one on dry land and one on the water. That the Gemara doesn't answer that question if that would be a liability or not. Because our Mishnah was speaking about the halacha that our topic of falling into a bur, the nafar shema shor chamor, that is labdav kashor chamor. It's all types of animals, even chayv oiv. And one of the categories, he said many categories that apply to all types of creatures, was kalayim, and therefore we're discussing regarding what's considered different types of minim. And the question is, what would be dry land and on water? We shall return to the fifth parak, Masechet Bava Kama, parak of Shor Shenagos Apar, which spoke about the mazik of Shor, and then we opened up the mazik of Bar, which actually is a continuum Beis as we begin Hakoinis, the sixth parak, which talks about obligations of Shmira, and also continuing regarding the Dalit, the Arba Obis Mazikin. Taisa says, he says, wait a second, this Mishnah should have been taught earlier with the mazik of Shor. Right? We opened up the first Mishnah in the Masechta Hashar bar hamav bahava. So we spoke about shar. We went on to the second mazik of bar. We'll get to mava and heva, but this should have been taught with the mazik of shar, and because it's going back to hakoyin tzaryin l'dir, we're going back to animals again, to damage that they're causing. Why do we interrupt with these few mishnahs with the mazik of bar? So it says Taisis, it's only because on Daf Mem Zayin Mabeis we had a mishnah that spoke about if an ox falls into a pit and ruins the waters. So it was the mazik of shar, but it got involved in the case of bar. So therefore we started speaking about the mazik of bar. Or another approach Taisis says is that really the halachas of bar were appropriate to mention first before we talk about this mishnah, which is actually talking about the halachas of shmira. It's not really talking about primarily the mazik of shar. It's talking about a shar being mazik, but it's talking about your obligation to protect and be shomer on it. Now, the truth is, the mazik of eish, which we're going to mention later on, which is heva, should have also been taught first. It's just that since we taught on the mission of Bezim and Aleph, when we were speaking about the mazik of bar, we spoke about kiso kuro bar, that if you covered appropriately over the bar, there was dog, that if you're pater or not. So we had to start mentioning halachas about opening and digging a bar, which that's what the pasuk is talking about. So then we talk about what's similar of nol b'fnei kuro, which is the theme of our mishnah of locking the door appropriately in front of the show, which is very similar to closing the opening of the pit. So that's where we're segueing over here, and then we'll go back to the mazik of eish. Be that as it may, says the mishnah, hakoyin is tzaryin l'dir. Someone gathers in sheep into the pen, into the fenced-in area of where the sheep are put in, and v'nol b'fnei kuro, and he locks the door in front of it appropriately. And the sheep gets out and damages. The text discusses why we're talking about sheep. If we up until now we're talking about shur, and we'll see that later on regarding what actually the mazik over here is. But be that as may, it goes on and damages. So pater. So the owner of the sheep is going to be exempt because you protected it. And like the words of Rashi, what should he have done? He's not liable for something that he didn't do a shmira for, because we always say shmiras nalecha is really the main idea. If you didn't do a shmira, so then you're chayiv. But if you did a shmira, you're going to be pater. You're not saying that adam would la'olam. That's not the adam. This is the mazik of shar, of shein, of regel, of karen. Says the Mishnah, loy no b'fnei kuro. Let's say you didn't lock the door appropriately, b'yotz v'zik went out and damage. So then chayiv, then you can be liable. Now, says the Mishnah, nifetza balayla. If let's say it broke open at nighttime, which Taisus explains in Divin Maskal Nifritza, he says, even though we already said if you lock the door appropriately, you're going to be pater. So why do we have to say if they broke at nighttime, you're going to be pater? So he says it's like the Gemara was Medagan Avidalim and Aleph to tell us, balayla. But if it broke during the daytime, then you would be chayiv, because it's during the daytime, word gets out, and the guy presumably knew that it broke, and then you should have got there quickly, left your work site, and ran there to protect, make sure it doesn't damage. Or another approach is that at nighttime, even if you find out it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and she said, honey, you heard what happened? It sounds like the broke and the animal's getting out. So as Taisus, he doesn't have to be matriach more than necessary to run after it in the darkness of the night. With his gachkas running out, with his robe, with the slippers, and running out, trying to run after the animal and say, where are you, Henry? Where are you? Like to get the whatever it is, the animal back. So Shlef Kappa with the big tail hanging from the yarmulke or whatever. So that you don't have to do. That's again, there's two different pshatim what the chiddush is, because really Be'etzim Nifetz Balayla is already inherently what the Mishnah already said. But that's what saying says two chidushim in that case. So if it broke open at nighttime, or should put list him, or if let's say bandits broke open the gate, which Taisus in the next Divin Maskal says, and that was necessary to tell us that even the bandits are going to be pater if they didn't actively take out the animal. Let's say the robbers just broke open the door because they wanted to steal your Tesla or whatever, this and that. And then once the door is open, so your dog runs out and goes and damages the neighbor's yard, whatever. So that's a chiddush of Taisus that also, again, it's the same thing. What's the chiddush? Is that even the bandits themselves are pater. They're only chayiv if they actively take out the animal by hand. But be it as it may, in all these cases, if the animal goes down and damages, pater, you can be pater again. These are These are beyond the call of duty of responsibility. Now, you list them, but if the bandits themselves took out the animal, then list them chayav. Now they're going to be responsible. They actively took it out. They're going to be responsible for whatever damages it does. Continues the Mishnah. Let's say nicha b'chama. Let's say a person puts his sheep in the sun, which the sun is bothering the sheep. So therefore, what's important is that a regular, appropriate locking of the door is not going to be enough, as Gemara is going to explain. Which that's just a door that can withstand the common wind, but an uncommon wind, like a banging, when your kids are trying to get into your bedroom, they're banging the door down, that's something that's extraordinary. When you put a sheep in the sun, the animal starts going crazy. So, or you give over the sheep to a deaf mute or a mental deranged or a minor, which again, that's inadequate for the shmira. Putting in the sun is inadequate because it's going to go crazy. Even is inadequate. An animal goes out and damages, then you are going to be liable. Now, let's say you give over the animal to a shepherd. Okay, it's the babysitter. They take responsibility. The shepherd takes over to be responsible for whatever damages it causes. Naflagina. Now, here's where we get a little bit more involved in more the mazik, tashlumi hezik type of a category of discussion. Naflagina. If let's say the animal fell into a garden, what does that mean? So Rashi explains it was like an oinus, and that's really what's the most important thing. It was walking on the roof of its owner, which was near the friend's garden, or let's say it was walking in the street, which was higher than the property of the garden that was near the Rosh Hashanah. And the animal fell into the garden. And it had pleasure down there. Once it's down there in the garden of Eden, it's just like it's like it fell into this great bliss. Mishalem is mashanenes. The owner has to pay only according to what the pleasure of its animal was, not according to what it damaged. So although the damage is a certain amount, it's going to be more often than what the pleasure is. The owner only has to pay what his animal had benefit, not what the damage was. But if the animal went down its normal way, it went down the normal path. It didn't fall into the garden. It went down and it caused damage. That's the mazik of shein, the brag, whatever it is. You have to pay whatever the damage it caused. It says the Mishnah, how does it pay what the damage was? Meaning, you don't evaluate the row itself that the animal ate, because there will be a huge loss for the mazik, for the perpetrator, for the owners, for the animal's owner.
What's the difference? How much? If he's
right, exactly. But the point is that if you evaluate the row in its all its worth, the Torah doesn't tell you that. The Torah says ubir b'stei achar, which the Gemara on Daf Yomi Beis later on darshans that teaches you that you evaluate whatever it ate based on stei achar, on another field. You look at a larger area for damage. Not really that. No, let's say you have a field that has 1,000 rows of cabbage, and it ate one row. If you evaluate one row as you go to the market, to the store, retail, it's going to cost you something. But if you're buying a whole field, you're not going to pay that much. It's in regards to a larger area. Okay, one row out of 1,000, it's not that much of a dent. The Torah. I don't know if that's the idea. It's just I think it's the quantity.
It's something in a personal garden is more valuable than
right, but I'm saying the point is about the size. If you're buying one piece or one row and you look at it only in that context.
You mean the size of the row?
No, the size of the field. Meaning when you're buying 500 homes, you're going to pay a different price than you're buying one house. It's in the context of the larger context. As you have a smaller quantity, it's going to make a difference. It's going to make a dent. But in contrast to a larger quantity, the little bit that's missing is not so significant. So therefore, that's what the Mishnah has in Machlekes. Bava Kama says, rather, shaman beis saw, beis saw the kama hisayafa. You evaluate an area of a saw in that field, how much it was worth before the animal ate this row. V'kama yafa, how much is it worth now? So like Rashi explains, now you're not paying all its monetary value, which is how much a person would pay for just that row itself. Because when a person is purchasing a beisa with its grain, okay, it's missing one row, no. It's give me off a few dollars. You know what I'm saying? That's because it's not so significant. But if you were buying just a row, he would charge you full price, whatever the row is. So that's what the Tanna Kama says. You evaluate b'stei acher, ubir b'stei acher means that you evaluate it based on a full field, not on just what it damaged itself. Shimon he says it depends. He says achla peres gemurim. If the animal ate full-fledged, ripened fruits, which are already totally matured, then the owner has to pay all the damage of peres gemurim, of full-fledged fruits. Whether it's a saw, it's a saw, but two saw. And so when do you evaluate based on another field? Says Rashi, when it didn't mature yet. So then you see it as secondary to the field. So we look at a field, we don't look at the peres. But if it's a full-fledged peres, then you would pay as they are, not like the Tanna Kama. So the Gemara explains this halacha, the Mishnah that we opened up with, of kindness soin ladir. If you lock in the door appropriately, then you're potter. If not, you can be chayiv. So Tarma learned the brayso that elaborates on this halacha. Says, "Ezel kuro be'ezel shlo kuro." What's considered that you locked the door appropriately, and what's considered that you didn't? Says the brayso, if you have a door that can withstand the common wind, zel kuro, that's considered appropriate. You don't have to have a huff and puff and I'll blow this house down. That's not, it's, as long as it can withstand the regular wind, that's enough. But if it cannot withstand even the regular common wind, that's considered inappropriate. Now, on that, Amr Mani Bar Pater, she says, Man Tana. Wait, based on what you're saying, I have the following question. Who's the Tana of our Mishnah that muid the sagi lei b'shmira b'chusa? That when you have an animal that's a muid, it's enough to do it with a weak, a deficient type of a safeguard. And what does this mean? So Rashi explains. Who is the Tana of the Mishnah that says when you have sheep that are mazik with shein and regel, which that is muid mitchilasai, shein and regel is always a muid, that it's enough with just a ne'ila karo, with an appropriate locking, which is a shmira b'chusa, because we said what's the shmir we're talking about, karo, is that it can withstand just a ruach mitzuya. But if you have a huff and a puff and a blow your hands down, a ruach she'en mitzuya, or tornado, it would not be able to withstand that. So that's called in halacha a shmir b'chusa. It's something called shmir me'ula. It's that it could withstand, who knows, even dynamite. And then there's the shmira b'chusa. We're talking about tzayin, which places somewhere explains that that's obviously we're talking about, and that's why we changed from shur, and we're talking about tzayin. We were talking about shein and regel, which that's the way that normally mazik is with it was with their shein and their regel, not with they don't have with the horns. They're not coming us lahazik, and therefore they're muad. And shein and regel is always a muad. And we're saying that v'no b'fnei karo will make you potter. So who's the Tan that says by a muad it's sufficient with a shmir b'chusa, which again because karo is considered b'chusa because it's just enough to withstand the regular common wind, but uncommon wind. If you're in Florida and it starts to tornadoes, your house is only up in the air. That's not considered as a me'ula. So who's the Tana? Says the Gemara Rabbi Huda. It's Rabbi Huda. It's not like we learn the Mishnah on Daf Yomi at base. Kashru ba'olav. If the owner tied the ox b'meisera with the reins, v'no lafan of karo, and he locked the door appropriately, v'yatza v'hizik, and the animal went out and damaged. So echad tam v'echad muad chayiv. So whether it be a tam, whether it be a muad, you're going to be liable. The Remeir says Remeir that it's not enough with a locking the door appropriately. You got to do a shmira me'ula. It's not enough with a shmir pchusa of locking the door, like what could withstand the ruach mitzuya. That's opinion of Remeir. Yudam, he says, tam chayiv. No, only a tam. Interestingly, it's not enough with a shmir pchusa. It's not enough just to make it karo. It's not enough just to withstand a common wind. Which the rationale of Yehuda was explained already in Perek Shlosh Nagach Dal V'Hei on Daf Memheim at Beis, which is learned out from Psukim. It says muad pater. Interestingly, a muad is going to be pater with a shmir pechusa, as long as you lock the door appropriately, they can withstand the common wind. Why? Because it says specifically by muad, v'lo yishmir and the balov. Because that's the part that says if it was already gored yesterday and the day before, whatever, and it says and the owner did not watch it. Now, b'shamu, who is that? It is watched, which it sounds like as long as it says because you didn't do any watching. It sounds like you did any watching, it would be good. Which is even the shmir pechusa. So he's the Tana of our Mishnah that says that a muad is pater, which is the halach of tzayin, which is enough with just a shmir pechusa. Now, a third opinion, what we're mentioning, Vlazayim says no, ein l'shmir elasakin. The only way to safeguard the animal is with a knife, which Rashi points out he disagrees with both of them. Because according to Reb Meir, he holds at least a shmir mu'ula is enough. Rabbi Elazar holds no, there's no way of protecting a mu'ud. It's just like basically you got to. No, it just means you got to kill it. There's no way of protecting it. You can't really stop it. It's not. You're going to be chayiv in any way. Meir holds no. As you did a shmir mu'ula, you'll be pater. Yehuda holds that you're pater even with a shmir pechusa. Meir holds you need a shmir mu'ula. Elazar holds you have to kill it. Akapanim v'oifen. We're saying that so Tana Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda. However, says the Gemara, no, it's not necessarily the case. Afilatema Reb Meir. You could even say the Tana of the Mishnah is Reb Meir. How's that possible? Shani Shein V'Regel. Shein V'Regel is different from, although yes, Shein V'Regel is a muad, and Karen muad is also muad. But although by Karen muad, we have Reb Meir telling you that you're going to be chayiv with a shmir pechusa, by Shein and Regel, by its muad, you're going to be pater with a shmir pechusa. Why? Where do we see this? Because the Torah mi'ata b'shmirasim. The Torah minimizes the requirements of their shmira. Because Amr B'Lazar, Amr Allah, some say it's b'masinta, in the Braysa Abba Devarim, there are four things that Torah mi'ata b'shmirasim. The Torah minimizes your necessity of safeguarding them. Veilahin, and they are the following: Bar, the mazik of the pit; Beish, the mazik of the fire; Shein, the mazik of when it damages with its teeth, hanola zekei; Regel, and when it damages with the legs, which is darker lahazik. Where do we find this? So the Gemara explains. Bar d'chsib, it says by the mazik of bar, ki yiftach ish bar, or ki yichri ish bar. If a man's going to open up a pit, or he's going to dig a pit, but he's not going to cover it. Wait a second, what do you mean he's not going to cover it? It sounds like haki so, but if it covers it even just a little bit, you don't have to totally stuff it up and fill it up with earth. It's enough just to cover it. Potter can be potter. So you see that the Torah is minimizing your obligation of what you have to undo from this mazik that you created. So to Eish, the mazik of fire, it says Pasuk in Shema, it says Shalom Yishalom Hamar B'Sam Ba'era. He shall surely pay the one who made the fire. Which it sounds like at the ovid kein maver, like you're only liable if you made it like a fire, meaning like a negligence, like you made the fire. But if it's anything less than that, then and you weren't so neglectful, then you're not going to be chayav for the mazik of Eish. And Shein, the mazik of the teeth, so like it says the pasuk ubir b'stei acher, and that it grazes in another field, which teaches ad ovid kein uvir until he does it like as if uvir. In other words, as if you're feeding your animal with your own hands from the other guy's fields, which in other words means with negligence. But anything less than negligence, you're not going to be chayiv for the mazik of Shein. And Regel, because the Chsiv B'Shilach, it says that you send the animal, which is ad ovid kein b'shilach, until like almost like you're sending the animal, like go Becky, go to the food, go step on it. Sending is with the feet. Like it says in the pasuk, that he sends the feet of the ox and the donkey. And the beer is the hashein, which we just mentioned before. Beer is refers to the mazik of shein. Like it says in the pasuk, like until it wipes out, until it's finished, which is we spoke already on the first parak. We see from that mazik of shein that you reveal the teeth, which are gull, until it's finished, but use the word ubir over there. But one thing we see is time of the avid kain b'shelach abir. That the reason why you chayav for shein rega is because like sending it or like having it, like giving it to consume. If you didn't do loy, that you're not going to be chayav. So we see that shein regel is enough for the shmir b'chus. As long as you're not mamish peshay, you're not mamish negligent, then you're going to be potter. So we could even say the time of the Mishnah is Reb Meir. Although he says by mood you need a shmir ma'ula, that's only regarding Karen. But regarding the other avos and nezikin, we said a shmir b'chus is going to be sufficient. Now, Amar Rabbi says, Masnit Nami Deki says, the Mishnah also seems to be precise like this, that the reason is because the Torah minimized it. But by Karen, which is a muad, you're right, our Mishnah actually would hold not like Rabbi Yehuda, whereas the point we were mentioning before, because the Tani Tzayin. What's the case of Parak our Mishnah open up with? Hakain is Tzayin Ladir. Now, sheep generally damage only with their teeth and with their feet. Now, let's see, we were talking about all this previous prakim up until now. We were talking about shar. So in this nishar, we're talking about animal damage. Why don't you continue talking about an ox? Why do you suddenly start talking about sheep? Isn't because that because the Torah is minimizing with of what you have to do to safeguard them. Isn't because they can't Karen like sivaba. Here, there's no mazik of Karen applicable by Tzayin. It's only regarding the mazik of Shein Regel. Bava Kama Daf, that's what our Mishnah is teaching us specifically. Shein Regel, the mu'adin who only there is where their Torah was memayit b'shmirasan. That's where we're saying that they're going to be enough with a no b'fnei karo, which is shmir b'chusa. That that's actually proves the point, like we said, that the time of the Mishnah could even be like a mayor, and they're actually telling us not like Rabbi Yehuda from the fact that it picks its sign and not that Abshah. I think it's any time.